welcome along to yet another Sunday lunch. This is week number 8. We've got a very special guest with us this week. I'm John McGilvray.
My name is Liam Rudden, and we're joined by Scott Wilson, who was working his socks off yesterday at the auction, the Monarchs 100 auction. And if you have any questions that you'd like to ask Scott, you know the routine by now, drop them down on Facebook, and John and myself will read them out and ask them. John?
Yeah, thanks, Liam. And Scott, thank you very much for joining us and giving us your time.
No worries. Good fun. I've never done one of these before. Mind you, I'd never done an online auction until yesterday. And as you can hear from my voice, I'm still recovering.
Yeah, I tuned in yesterday as well. It was a tremendous effort by all involved, especially yourself. It was, you'd said before we went on air, you were looking at kind of an hour and a half. It was more like 3 hours, but a cracking effort by yourself. Had plenty of funds raised, I understand, too.
It was really good fun. Yeah, great.
And have we got a kind of total that we can let the fans know?
We haven't at the moment, but I think the running total we had, and I was filling out a spreadsheet as we went through with all the bids yesterday. I think it was somewhere in the region of 3-7, so just under $4,000 for an afternoon's work, it's really, really good. And it brings the total raised by the Monarchs 100 over our 8 separate events to touching £30,000.
Wow.
Staggering.
Wow.
Absolutely staggering.
Brilliant.
Just over $1,000 an hour there, Scott. Did you expect to be there for an hour, for 3 hours?
That's the going rate, Scott, is it not?
Yeah, quite. It was a Saturday afternoon. I didn't have anything else on, so I thought I expected probably 90 minutes to an hour and 3/4, but it went a wee bit longer. But yeah, all in area, a really good cause.
And who else was instrumental in getting it all put together? I know Derek Wilkinson was
Derek, the bus driver. And Derek's obviously my partner in crime in the Monarchs 100, because he's the one that comes up with the ideas and then prods me. And so primarily Derek. His wife Frida has been absolutely amazing, certainly on that one, and she makes stuff happen at the background, because Derek, even by his own admission, isn't the world's most technologically advanced. As he says, I'm a bus driver, and he's driving buses. So Frida takes care of all that, and their daughter Lisa was really helpful yesterday too. But over the course of the existence of the Monarchs 100, there's been a whole lot of people. Janice McNeil, the late great Ron McNeil, Frida, as I've mentioned, their daughter Lisa, Maureen Duff, Ian and Anne Dunlop, everybody that served the meals efficiently at our Burn suppers. And a big mention to the Vass family, who hire and pay for the use of the venue. Stuff like that kind of, flies under the radar, but these people need, flagging up. All the guests we've had at the Burn Supper, Kenny McKenna, Alan Rossiter, Rory Schlein, Stuart Dixon, Kevin Dolan, but more importantly, all the fundraisers, all the supporters who dig deep and primarily when it's needed. And we try and, our motto is put the fun into fundraising, and start from the very first one, which was the walk across the bridge with Alan Longmuir from the Bay City Rollers as our patron from the early days. It was just such great fun, and it's good hanging out with such great people. So a lot of money raised from what was effectively having a laugh.
Good.
Scott, tell us about the origins of Monarchs 100, and just so everybody should know exactly what it is by now, but just if they've been in ours for the last few years, tell us exactly what the Monarchs 100 is and what it aims to do and how people can get involved.
Okay, right. In simple terms, it was there when the Monarchs were going through a tough time a few years ago. I don't know exactly what season it was, but we had an unprecedented amount of rain-offs, and the club were really reaching out, looking for help. And Derek came up with this idea of something as simple as a sponsored walk over the Forth Road Bridge. So we put our heads together. I came up with the idea of the 100 because I thought if we could get 100 people raising £100, then it's dead simple numbers. So we launched that. We had a number of people said, yeah, we'll get on board. At the same time, I was planning to do the Glasgow to Edinburgh Pedal for Scotland run. So I did that, and the sponsorship money from that went towards the total. And we had the walk over the bridge, and I think with those 2 events together, we raised £9,000. So we were off and running, and we thought, yeah, everybody seemed really, really keen to get involved with this. It wasn't that difficult to arrange. So let's continue, let's do other events. And then Derek came up with the idea of the Burns Supper. We've all got contacts all over the place. James McSween is a friend of mine, so James was quite happy to donate the haggis. Derek got the spuds donated by Peter. We got ice cream donated by Arcari, etc. So effectively, we got all of the grub that we needed for hee-haw. I've got a few customers within the spirits industry, so I had whiskey donated there as well. You know, the downside was that I played the pipes, so you had to put up with that, but that was only 2 minutes, and worth bearing, I think, for such a good night. So we had everything donated. We mentioned John Vass paying for the venue as well, and it's grown from that. It's been quite remarkable. And the riders coming along, primarily the ones that are not Scots coming along, not really knowing what to expect, and then just seeing their face when it's like this tartan fest, and it's just such a great laugh. So it all started from that. It grew into that. We've had a race night as well. I think that's 3 or 4 Burns suppers, maybe 4. The race night, the sponsored walk, we've had 2 of the walks. Yeah, and I'd like to say Derek keeps on coming up with ideas which are great, and my challenge is trying to find the time to fit them all in. So he's the brains behind the outfit. And I've not answered your question. Sorry, I haven't answered your question, John. How can people get involved if they want to? Well, we've got a Facebook page, Monarchs 100 on Facebook. Just go in there and apply to become a member. It is a closed group. You don't, knock anybody back, but if you want to get involved, do that, and then the events that we have coming up, we post on that page.
Right, as you know, we like to get the fans involved in these Sunday lunches and well, and they'll ask questions that we'll put forward to you as we go on here. First off, we've got Stuart Wilson. This is right up your street, Scott. As a fellow connoisseur of single malt whisky, what is your favourite single malt and why?
That's a great question. And it depends on the date, Stuart, actually. I've got an exam to sit next week, which is my first, and then I've got a 2-day exam in October, and if I pass them, I'll become a master of malt. So instead of being what's the phrase that I would use? Instead of being an amateur whisky blower, I'll be a qualified whisky blower. My go-to malt, Stuart, is the Balvenie Caribbean cask, and I like that a lot, but I've also discovered a relatively new one by Glendronach, which is an 18-year-old, which I would put up there alongside your Macallan 30-year-olds of the world. But no, there's really no such thing as a bad whisky. I'm not a fan of heavily peated ones like Lafroig. I'm more of a Speyside Highland man, but I'm always keen to widen my horizons. And because my new job role takes me into Ireland a lot, I've discovered a lot of Irish whiskies, and I feel quite hypocritical because up until about 18 months ago, I would swear blind proper whisky doesn't have an E. But I've since discovered a number of great Irish whiskies which knock that theory into a cocked hat. So a long-winded answer, I think great Caribbean cask. But if you want to discuss that over a whisky tasting, now there's a good idea. A Monarchs 100 whisky tasting.
There you go.
Great idea, Stuart. Fantastic. It's your idea.
Brilliant. We'll all go home steaming.
You never get a hangover with good whisky, though, John.
Oh, well, I'll keep that one, Phil. That could be my new thing.
I tell you what, there was a couple of good bottles of whisky went in the auction yesterday, Scott, and quite a few other interesting items. Any of them take you by surprise with what they went for?
Yes, a pile of them that I saw in the latter stages, which were the Speedway. Number one, the Speedway magazines. We had Speedway Star, which everybody's familiar with, Speedway Chronicle, Speedway News, Speedway People, Speedway, XYZ, all the different Speedway publications from way back, kind of post-war years up until the 60s. I had no idea. I knew Speedway was popular back then. I had no idea it was the number 2 sport in the UK. And so we had all these collections, and people like Mike Hunter, who is a fanatic, who must have every Speedway publication ever published, but clearly not by virtue of the fact that he bought a whole lot more yesterday. And my wife came in with a cup of tea at that point when I was going, and she whispered, "Has Jane left the room?" Because she came with a lure to bid for 122 editions of a publication that Mike's probably got already, and he's just looking for more. And you can just imagine prodding him with a stick off camera and going, "Stop it! So I'm amazed at the amount that they went for, and the fact that there were guys from Essex and guys from Sheffield who had actually dialed in specifically to get their hands on these things. And the fact that they're obviously quite rare. They've been donated by people from their own collection. I think Jim Smith called me after the auction. Jim had donated a whole lot of stuff, and he was delighted with the way that the fundraising had gone. But the fact that these things are still valued by collectors, even down to wee badges. And there was one badge where I started it at £2. I got no bites. I had to go down to £1, and I think it ended up at 40 quid. Just for a badge. It's amazing.
So we'll look at your kind of early. How did it all start? We're going to get a bit of flavour for yourself, Scott. How did it all kind of start? Not with the Monarchs, but the whole radio thing, everything. Where did it all begin? It's obviously led you to doing the Speedway, to working with Hearts and all that. Where did it all start?
Well, when I was a kid, I shared the bedroom with my younger brother, Tom. And Tom was a pirate, a radio pirate, because back in the 60s and 70s, you certainly didn't have the proliferation of radio stations that we have right now. So if you wanted pop music, you were kind of struggling. You had Radio Luxembourg, which was doing it 24/7, but the signal would come and go. So Tom was a big fan of Radio Caroline and ended up on a radio station called Radio Caroline South. And that came from my bedroom. So both of my eldest brother was a professional footballer, so he lived away from home, but my other two brothers were both electronic engineers and always building kit. So Tom and his pals built a transmitter, and we had this copper wire stretching out of my bedroom window over to a tree, and effectively a medium wave aerial. So my mother thought that the guys were just playing records, and unaware that somebody at all times was sitting at the bottom of the street in a car watching out for the authorities, who were the GPO at the time. So I got hooked on that. My voice broke at 12, so it allowed me to read the news. So I ended up then doing 10 years of pirate radio with a station called Radio Telstar. And I actually have a blight on my backstory, where I was done for installation and operation of a pirate radio station. Anyway, it's something to be proud of when you eventually get into radio. So I did 10 years of that, and at the same time I was doing clubs and pubs as a DJ, and I was also sending demo tapes into Radio 4 and other radio stations. And ultimately Radio 4 got to, I think, number 11. I still have the letter somewhere from Sandy Wilkie, who was the assistant programme controller, saying thank you very much for the latest in your series of demo tapes. We've respectfully come to the conclusion that you don't have a future in radio and suggest that you try your talents elsewhere. Wow. That same demo tape that I sent to them, I also sent to North Sound in Aberdeen and Metro in Newcastle. Both of them invited me in for an interview. I didn't go to Metro because it was too far to go. I did go up to North Sound, and they offered me a gig. They offered me a full-time gig on the back of a demo tape, and it was taken over from a guy called Brian Burnett, who's now on Radio Scotland. And Brian was doing 7 till 10 Monday to Friday and the Saturday breakfast show. So the guy there, who was the head of music, a guy called Graham Morland, offered me a show, put me on to the boss man. We sat and we talked, and he said that I'll do some figures and come back. So I went back down to Edinburgh on the train, and he called me that night and said, look, we can afford to pay you £38 a show, or whatever it was. Now, this is 1988. 38 quid a show. So I said, let me go and do some sums. My wife and I just bought a new house, and they were still building on the estate. I was working at Fanti, and 38 quid, it was pretty good, but we just bought a house. We'd obviously have to relocate up to Aberdeen. So we couldn't make the figures work. So I had to go back to this guy and say, sorry, these figures don't work. So he said, give me an hour. And to his credit, he came back. He said, I can go to £42 a show, but on the understanding you don't breathe a word, because the breakfast show presenter was Robin Galloway. And Robin 40 quid a show, and here he was offering us Johnny No Time £42 a show, but on the understanding that I didn't say anything. Anyway, still couldn't make that work, so reluctantly knocked it back. Graham Morland, who was head of music, moved to Radio Clyde 6 months later, called me up, went in there, and they gave me the overnight show, which was 2 till 6 Saturday morning and 2 till 6 Sunday morning. Now, that's a graveyard shift on any radio station, but Radio Clyde, second biggest commercial station in the UK, and this is late 80s when people are still listening to local radio, that still had a massive audience. So I'm going in there really green around the gills and learning a trade. And on, you know, other stations there would be 3 men and a dog, so you can make as many mistakes as you like, nobody cares. On my one, I was making mistakes, and they were kind of high-profile mistakes. So I learned fairly quickly. Moved from that, Clyde then put me on to Saturday afternoon, and then in 1990, Radio 4 split into AM and FM. It was Max AM and Radio 4 RFM. And I got a call from a guy who sadly just passed away a few weeks ago, Colin Somerville. Would I be interested? And I said, well, I'm still a bit sore that you guys knocked me back. And at the back, the wee voice going, take it, take it, take it. Yeah. So I said to Colin, what's the fee? And he came in, I can't remember what it was. Let's say it was 50 quid. And I'm like, sorry, Colin, I'm earning more at Radio Clyde, which was a lie. I'm quite happy to stay. So I hung up the phone. 10 minutes later, my brother phones and a stream of profanity. What the hell do you think you're doing? And I'm like, no, bugger them. They've knocked me back, so let me have my moment. If they want me, they can up the money. And sure enough, he came back with more money, and I'm saying, aye, okay, I'll do it. And went to Radio Clyde and said, look, I'm moving to Forth. And the guy who was the programme controller there, Alex, never seen him do this before, because generally if you say you're at another station, it's like clear your locker out and sling your hood. If you wanted to do both stations, I'd be happy to have you here. So Forth had offered me Saturday breakfast and Sunday breakfast, and he wanted me to keep me on Friday night at Radio Clyde. But I would have finished at 1 in Glasgow and been on the air in Edinburgh at 6, and that was never going to work. So anyway, moved there. Saturday breakfast became Saturday mid-morning and Sunday mid-morning. And Saturday's mid-morning show grew in popularity so much that it had a bigger listening audience than the daytime breakfast show Monday to Friday. So they then offered me a full-time job, and I moved and I started on drive time in 96. I left Videojet, the company that I was with, and I did drive time there, and that got bigger and bigger. Won a Sony Radio Award, etc., and did very well there. And then, because I was doing my MBA, they offered me the chance to move into management. Ended up running Forth 2, and in fact, for 6 months I was running the whole operation. So whilst I'm there, I'm also doing American football. I did the Scottish Claymore, and it was there that I think Dick Barry was leaving. I think after the season in Glasgow, and you were moving to Armadale, and Dick phoned and said they're looking for a centre green announcer. Now, I knew nothing about Speedway, but Alan Patterson, Saddam from the Emmerdales, is a very good friend. So I phoned him and I said, could I do this? Of course you could, my boy, of course you could. So for the next 6 weeks, or the first 6 weeks of the season, Alan would come out on a Thursday and he would tell me bits and pieces about the riders that we were going to see on the Friday. And I went out and I gave it a go. I was absolutely appalling for that first 6 weeks. And I kept on saying to Gillian, I'm not going back, I'm rubbish. And I would refer to it, next week's match is against Arena Essex. It's not a match, it's a meeting. There are no fans like Speedway fans. I'm getting pelters here. I'm really crap at this. Anyway, Gillian and my son Chris was coming along at this time. They kept on prodding, you have to stay, you have to stay. Eventually I got to the end of the season and I got an award for the best newcomer to British Speedway. So I had the jacket. I didn't quite have all the badges, but I had the jacket, and I just stayed from then. So it was great crack. I did say I'll come along and help you out for a few weeks, and I think it was 22 years or something.
Incredible.
Ross Ballantyne asks, do you miss being involved? Do you miss being on the centre green?
I miss the people. I miss Ron McNeil greatly, because he was always there every week. There's loads of people, too numerous to mention, aside from Ron, I won't mention anybody else, but a lot of great people involved, so I miss the people. What I don't miss is Friday, June the 30th, the height of summer, having 6 layers on and my fingers being blue and not thawing out until I got to junction 3 of the M8 with the heat on the last day of June. That's just wrong. In any language, it's wrong. It is the coldest place in Christendom, and I should have taken the hint when the Royal Marines decided that they would no longer train at Armadale. They would go to the Arctic because it's milder.
We know that feeling, Scott. I've been out that centre union a few times in cold. That tower that we're in now, we're being up a bit higher. Liam's out the hand warmers regularly. It's unbelievable.
It is the coldest place. So yes, I do miss the people, and it used to be great crack.
Yeah. And Andrew Pennycook asks, who was your favourite rider to wear the blue and gold, and who was the favourite non-monarch to race at Armadale?
Probably the favourite rider would be Peter Carr, who also comes under the heading of the most reluctant interviewee. He was always great to watch because you knew it was better if Peter didn't gate, because you knew he was going to come from the back. He was the best one. Freddie was also great crack. I thought he was fantastic, and he was a right party animal. So there was also, with Peter, you had to craft the questions in your mind to make sure they were open questions, because if you get Peter a closed question, you're going to get a yes or a no answer, and then he's just looking at you, right, saying, what's next? So you had to craft it to try and get the maximum out of it. With Freddie, there was also that fear of you never knew what was going to come out of his mouth. He was great crack. The best non-Monarchs rider, probably Carl Stoney, because he was always good for an interview, always had a smile. I love riders that ride with a smile on their face, like Kevin Doolan. And I admire them. It's something I would never ever do. I went on the back of a motorbike, somebody's testimonial, I can't remember whose it was. Never again. Never again.
It's certainly not for me. Davy Harkis is asking, he reckons he missed the mechanics chat, but I'm not convinced, mate. I'm not convinced.
Mechanics are grease monkeys for a reason. They don't have chat. Why they're kept in the pits and they're inhaling all these fumes. So, Harky, I'm sorry. There's nothing about the mechanics chat that I miss.
Scott, there's a few folks saying hello to you. Alex Harkis says, welcome to The Voice. Lynette Linton says hi. Colin Hamilton says, it's nice to hear your dulcet tones again. There's a hello from Banana Man and Leanne as well. And Scott Girdwood is asking what your most memorable meeting was at Armadale.
That's really, really tough. I don't know how many meetings I did in total. One sticks out for no apparent reason other. I think it was maybe a KO Cup final, and I've no doubt somebody will correct me. I'm going to say Arena Essex, and it was the second leg at Armadale. And for whatever reason, John had a kind of tripody thing with numbers on it, and he would put the numbers on, and I think it was the gap narrowing from the aggregate score, from the first leg to the second leg. And that was getting really exciting as we were getting into heats 12, 13, 14 to see us getting close. So that one sticks out. Over and above that, I think the nights that we won the title, and sadly there was one that I missed where I was unable to be there. And although I was quite happy to commit myself for the 6 months, there's always the danger with Speedway that you get a rain off. And I was then therefore reluctant to turn down too many other gigs. You know, I'd host, say, the Nordorf Robbins Tartan Clefs Awards, which are a massive, massive gig. And I don't want to turn that down and say, no, I'm on Speedway that night. Then they get another host. And then you find out that the Speedway's rained off. So you could have been doing that. So as a consequence, I was doing something or other, and I missed out the big one, which I saw the video of a few weeks ago. I don't know if it was you guys that were dancing around the track or whatever. It was the Heat 15 where...
Yeah, it was incredible.
It was awarded, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember that, and I missed that one. That's the saddest thing. One of the few regrets that I have in my time with the Monarchs, that I missed that one. But the other night,
Scott, for what it's worth, it was easily the best night I've ever had at the Speedway. So thanks.
No, you're all right. Thank you very much. So yeah, these nights I miss, and you could see particularly the first title. You saw what it meant to people. I'm still relatively new to the sport, only a couple of years, and grown men crying, and you're thinking, this obviously means a lot to you.
Yeah. Was there any times it went wrong?
Oh, frequently. Oh, absolutely. When you realise you've asked the question which you think was quite a witty question, and you let a lead balloon. No, again, you learn from these things as well. You learn more from adversity than you do from success. So stuff like that, you just post that in the memory banks. Right, try not to be a smart ass like that again, and just go for the standard question. But over and above that, I don't think, again, there'll be people out there who remember faux pas that I've done probably better than that. Because I cover so many sports, I've made mistakes in all of them, and none of them really stand out, apart from a Claymores meeting, which was covered live by Fox Sports. And I think there was whatever, 6,000 or 7,000 right in front of me, and a potential TV audience of about 20 million. And I introduced a band live on stage, big build up, and the band are all standing looking at me because I've introduced them as the wrong band. I've called them the Clan when they were, you know, Hue and Cry or something like that. Because there's a big difference between the two. But I'm looking at the script and I see the Clan, but somebody's changed the running order. La 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 la. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Clan. And I look over and it's Hue and Cry looking at me as if numbnuts. So I don't remember any massive faux pas when it comes to Speedway, but I'm sure there were many.
Scott, somebody asks here, did doing the Monarchs job get you the role at Hearts?
I was at Hearts before. I was associated with Hearts before. So 95, I started running the Hearts website. So it was I've been involved in IT for a long, long time, and I developed a website, took it to the Hearts board, who I'd had contacts with through Radio 4, sold it, and they endorsed it. So we became the first officially endorsed football site on the internet. I didn't get the Hearts job until 2002, by which time I'd already been at the Monarchs for several years. So no, it wasn't that. That was just again, Chris Robinson had been to the Scottish Claymores and saw what we did there and wanted to bring a bit of that to Hearts. So no, the two were unconnected.
What's the similarities? What's the big differences between the Speedway, between Tynecastle? What's the obvious differences?
Obviously, the sports are very different. You talk less at the football, obviously, because it's only when there's a goal scored or a substitution. Where the Speedway, you're talking in between every heat. With football, there's less of it. The only time that I have to be timed, if you like, is at the start of each half when I'm watching the referee. If it's a TV game, I'm watching the guy with his back, who's with the fourth official or the linesman, who has his hands behind his back, and then he brings it out and then he raises it, and that means the commercial break is finished, and then the lino tells the referee that he can go. I try and time my let's make some noise bit with that. Over and above that, there's really no other time considerations there. But with Speedway, what you try to do is from the flag going down, identify what the lineup was, and then try and fill that time until the box would come, give you the announcement, and then once he's given you the lineup, fill that until the tapes go up. So there's a lot of, as you guys all know, a lot of filling in there and trying to time that mentally so that you stop talking just as the action starts.
Scott, who was going back to the radio side of things? I mean, you were at Radio 4, I suppose, in what we would now call the golden age of local radio, when it was truly local. Who was the most famous person, Andrew Jeffrey asks, who you interviewed, not necessarily in Speedway, but just in general? What memories do you have, and sort of like who sticks out in your memory?
There's lots of them. David Bowie, who was an absolute gentleman, had some great stories about Edinburgh. Bruce Springsteen, they say you should never meet your heroes. And I'd been to see Bruce at Earl's Court, and I was at the after show party, and I'm talking to somebody, and I get this tap on my shoulder, and I turn around, and it's Bruce Springsteen. He said, "Hi Scott, I'm Bruce. What did you think of the show?" And those of you that have been around me long enough will know I'm never stuck for words. My tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth, and I was like, and he laughed, and he went away, and he came back with 2 bottles of beer, and they said, "That should loosen off your tongue." And we had a chat there, and he was an absolute diamond. What a lovely, lovely man. Over and above that, Paul McCartney, I haven't. That's one of the few that I haven't that I would have liked to. Stevie Wonder was fantastic. There's, loads of them. I have written a memoir, and there are loads of stories about it in there, but they're just ones that peel off at the top of my mind.
I listen to Off the Ball quite regularly, Scott, and Stuart Cosgrove always goes on about the time he met, and I say that, and I've just forgotten the guy's name, and he was an absolute nightmare to interview. and I can't remember the guy's name.
Mick Hucknall.
No. American singer. Oh, it'll come to me. Who's been the worst? He always said that was the worst. He was rude. He was ignorant. Who's the worst then on the flip side of that? James Brown. That's who it was. James Brown.
James Brown. I interviewed James. Good story with him, actually. The night that Hearts played Bayern Munich in the second leg of the quarter-final of the Monarchs Cup in Munich, I was in the Albert Hall, and I was doing a documentary on James Brown. And my mates had a box, because James Brown was appearing, and Pet Shop Boys were appearing, Liam, and loads of other acts there. And I had an Access All Areas pass and a microphone, but I kept on running back to the box because my mates were getting tanked. And never one to be shy and retiring when it comes to drink. I was getting tanked as well. And so I interviewed James Brown that night and the Pet Shop Boys, Liam. And
yeah,
he really wasn't keen. And I'm like, Neil, Scott Wilson, ready for blah, blah, blah. Any chance of a few words? Okay, just a few words. So he said, is Mike going? And I said, yes. And he said, let's go shopping. And dropped the mic and just walked away like a dream. Now, it's only 3 words, but I thought it was one of the best interviews that I'd ever done. Let's go shopping. Drop the mic. Obama out. And he dropped it and walked away. He was camper than a row of tents, but absolutely phenomenal. So, yeah, that night sticks out in my memory. It was great.
Scott Scumberville asks, like, he says you always come across as a very positive person. And just where does that ethos come from?
Principally, not to put too much of a downer on things, I lost my parents when I was 15 within 6 months of one another. And I guess, luckily I had 3 brothers that guided me, but I could have gone one of 2 ways. I could have crawled into my shell and gone, oh, woe is me, why has this happened to me? Or taken the other path in life. And I elected to take that. And I think from being orphaned when you're 15, what else can life throw at you that can be as bad as that? So get on with it. I'm also a great believer in, if you have no control over something that is troubling you, then park it. There's no point in stressing over it because there's nothing that you can do about it. So yeah, I genuinely, I'm like that. I don't surround myself with people who are fun sponges or, you know, fun vacuums. And so the people that I surround myself with are generally positive as well. I think, Liam, life's too short.
And how important, Scott, were your brothers in that? I mean, I knew Tom back in the day as well. And again, he was always a very positive person too. How important were they at that point when you're 15 and you find yourself in that situation?
They were huge, absolutely hugely, because I obviously lived with my folks, but I had to move out. So I spent 6 weeks with each brother, and they were great, and they cocooned me and made sure that I was looked after. So they all had an influence on my personality from that way forward, and helped me become the man that I am. So no, all them a great deal. Tom's marriage sadly broke up shortly thereafter, and Tom and I moved into a flat in South Clark Street, and that's a whole other book. But that was, he was some boy.
Well, hopefully, Scott, you're a great example to anyone who might be going through anything similar at the moment, and give them a bit of hope when you see what you've done.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Back to Christopher Black is asking, he'd love to know how Scott got into the radio ads. He literally seems to be on most local radio. I got off a plane and I'm like, I know that guy. Who's that? That's Scott. Where is he? Where is he? There's a footnote to this question. Also, does he think he would be bought a pint in Paisley?
Okay, right. I know exactly where he's coming from there. The answer to the second one is probably not. The answer to the first one, I started doing voiceovers, I think when I was at Radio Clyde, and the first one I did, the Glasgow Evening Times, bizarrely, asked me to become their voice. So I did that. I moved from there on to The Sun, and I was also doing the News of the World. Obviously, I have no morals whatsoever.
This interview's over, mate. See you later, bye.
I'm a media whore when it comes to that. I'm effectively a voice for hire. And I'm obviously friends with a lot of other voiceover artists, and they've got talent. So they can do character or they can do different voices. What you hear is what you get. I don't do accents. I don't do anything other than sell. So I just, again, you answered this question. A client will hear you on the radio, he will like that, he'll then contact either the voice bank or your agent or whatever to get you to do it. And generally, it just sounds like I'm on loads, Chris. I'm actually not. Richard F. Mackay, where there's a sale about to start after lockdown. I've been with them for about 25 years, and they're fabulous people. They're great. But other ones, more or less, if they like you, they stick with you. I've been doing Barclaycard for nigh on 20 years. I'm the voice of Barclays Capital. The strangest one is I'm the voice of Burger King in France. In English, but I'm the voice of Burger King in France. And a lot of other companies, I'm on their telephone systems, so if you phone them up, it's me guiding you through. Interesting story, last year, I was down to the shortlist of 3 for both CNN and Apple. I never got either of them, but I was shortlisted for them. So the other great thing is, up until a couple of years ago, you had to go into a radio studio to record it. So my job takes me all over, and I can get a call from a client or an agency, need a voiceover. So wherever I am, I'd have to, if I'm in Belfast, for example, I would go into one of the radio stations there. And it's very costly, and then you have to set up ISDN. Nowadays, I can record everything here. I've got a studio set up in here and do it, and the client dials in on Skype and directs me. I record it and then send the audio to them. So it's Edinburgh Airport's one that you're alluding to. I do the border force there. I do that for Glasgow Airport as well. I do it for Stansted. So I again, these things just grow. And there's one that I have recently done a show reel for, and it's a new American breakfast cereal called Great Grains of America. And it's a cartoon character. This is going out over all the states, and he's called Gregor McGrain. And Gregor McGrain has ginger hair, wears a tartan bonnet and a kilt. And he speaks in broad Scots like that. You pour your milk on it. So I was asked to do a show reel. I did the show reel. These things take 2 weeks, 3 weeks. The client was back to me with another. Client loves it. Client absolutely loves it. There are 2 states that don't like the Scottish accent. And I don't know why, but that's a fact. Could I do one in American? And I said, no, I don't. No, you must be able to do it. I'm like, I can try it, but it'll be frankly embarrassing. So I did it, and I was absolutely right. It was horrendous. So the client loved it, but the client wants the one voice to do the whole of the United States with all but 2 of the states in the Scottish accent. So we're still in negotiations over that. So I may end up being Gregor McGrain.
See on the Edinburgh Airport one. Sorry, Liam. On the Edinburgh Airport one. See when you're reading the script that they give you, were you thinking, who is bringing ninja throwing stars and swords into the country? This can't be right.
The great thing is, I got it. The first one I did was Glasgow. And the guy that ran it there at the time, I think they called him the Colonel or the Major or something, and he was frightfully. Oh boy, I'm sending you this, and I'd like you to do it, and if you can colloquialise it, that'll be great. I said, no problem. So the first one I did, I thought, I'll have a wee bit of fun. So it was, please don't carry swords, knives, flick knives, knuckle dusters, kung fu stars, etc. So I thought, you want it colloquial, so I did it. Gonna no be carrying stuff like spray and chips and that because it's no on. Gonna no. So I sent it through and I phoned him. What do you think, Major? Not quite what I was expecting. I said, I'm only pulling your leg, Major. So I finally was liking with it. Clearly, people are bringing this malarkey in. And I get more feedback on that. Exactly as you say. This is 2020. Who the hell uses kung fu stars anymore? But when I was growing up and Bruce Lee movies were in, everybody had kung fu stars.
So I've got to ask you, you mentioned your American accent. You've got to let us hear it.
Great. I think I've probably still got it in here because I recorded it in a hotel room. Here we are, actually. McGrain's Edition American. It is horrendous. I don't know if you can hear it off my phone, but let's see.
Our world's become completely faked up with all our nips and tucks, filters and lenses.
Oh, God, that's horrible. I have to stop that.
Yeah, the bad is, have you heard Chris Boyd doing his American...
the hair on the back of my neck standing up, that is just horrible. That's like one of the low points of my career. God almighty.
So Kenny Christ is asking, who is your best to interview out of all of our sponsors?
Kenny Crichton, I missed there because John had a week off.
Kenny Crichton is asking you, who would you say is the best person of all our sponsors to interview? I think that might be a loaded question.
It is a loaded question, but I'm trying to think what Rib's getting to, actually. So, of all of our sponsors, you'll have to give me a clue there, and I know that's not helpful because Rib's messaged that in. I don't know. Rib's obviously, like I say, it's a loaded question, but I'm not getting the inference.
Well, we'll see what he comes back with.
Come back with that, Rib. Let me know.
Christopher Black thinks your American accent is tremendous. He is laughing. He is laughing, crying with laughter as he speaks.
Honestly, my skin crawls. It is absolutely horrific.
See, sorry, Scott, going back to something you spoke about earlier on, I wanted to actually went to say when you were talking about local radio and things like that. You go into your car now, you put on digital radio, and it's just a list of radio stations. How do you take that in terms of, do you think it's good that there's more variety, more choice, more opportunity for guys? You know, would you say it's easier now for presenters to get into radio, or do you see it as being diluted and, you know, we don't need as many as we've got? Do we really need about 10 absolute radio stations?
It's a combination of all of that, John. Effectively, deregulation of radio was supposed to give everybody more choice, and it's probably gone too far. The one bugbear for me is we no longer have truly local radio, and that brings me greatly that the radio station that I was happy to give 16 years of my life to has one radio show coming from Edinburgh, and everything else is syndicated from Glasgow. That pains me greatly. It really does. So I'm saddened over that. When it comes to choice, yeah, I'm quite happy, although nowadays I'm fairly set in my ways, whereby I'll get in my car in the morning, it's usually on Radio 2. I'm not a fan of Zoe Ball, so I'll change to Chris Evans on Virgin. I still think he's great. He probably talks too much. I'd like to be his producer and give him a slap now and again. But
we have him on at work and he's just crashing vocals all the time.
Oh, he does, all over the place, and it's just like, really? And whilst I'm quite happy if the content's good, if he's slavering pish about something that I've no interest in, it's like, oh, shut up. Ken Bruce, I really like. I love Popmaster. I play that when I can. Jeremy Vine's good. If he's not there, if that's the topic's not to my liking, I'll go to LBC or I'll maybe listen to. I really like 45 Radio, the station that I'm on, because the music's really good. And the guys that are on it, I've all lived through it. You know, we've all been around the block more than once, and we can all identify with the music that we're playing. So I like the fact that I can dip in and dip out. Much like TV, you can have too many channels and there's still hee-haw on. Yeah. So there'll be times when I'll simply go, I'll either I'll play a podcast or I'll just go to a Spotify playlist. I like the fact that there's a lot of choice. I'd prefer if we had truly local radio, and I want to hear banter about somebody in Bonnyrigg or somebody in Falkirk or whatever, rather than this homogenised generic stuff which is supposed to be there and inoffensive. When I was on the radio, I was probably quite offensive to many people, but it made me laugh. And obviously the listening audience was there and it followed it. So people want that. They want that edginess. They want to go, oh my God, did you hear what he said? How did he get away with that? And they want to hear people being, pushing the envelope rather than just, and the big challenge of the big stations now is that they'll have 5 presenters over a whole day who all know if they step out of line, there's another 100 back down the door, because the talent pool is so deep now, because instead of having 7 local radio stations with 7 mid-morning presenters, 7 lunchtime presenters, 7 afternoon presenters, there's all these stations with 1 presenter who's networked across all the stations. So I don't think we're getting what we could be getting out of radio in general.
So does that make it harder for guys like, say yourself back in the day, you're saying I'll take X amount per show? It must be then the power's going to the radio stations who can then say, is that what you want? That's fine, listen, like you said, there's another 7 guys there who'll take a slot and it's not a problem.
Nailed it, absolutely. Here's the show, here's the fee. When I started, it was a 2-hour show. And I remember, and I look back on it and the deals that I was trying to drive, and I'm thinking, what a neck you had. You were coming to nothing, and you're trying to demand all this money. The great thing for me is I frequently had other radio stations trying to poach me. Real Radio were one of the, and they were waving big money at me, and I was like, And so I kind of they had offered me a truck as well, because I like to do live stuff. They had offered me a vehicle, a van called Black Thunder, which had a PA in it, which I would take out and do live stuff as well. And I'm like, I like that. And I did think about it very seriously. And then Forth came back and said, look, we want to keep you, and here's the salary, effectively. I was trying to fluff that up to make me sound not so money grabbing.
Bob Malcolm said to me recently, Scott, that in the end, he fell out of love with local radio. Did you ever fall out of love with it, and has 45 Radio let you keep your love of radio alive?
Good question. I didn't really fall out of love with it. I got into management, Liam, and that's a different ballgame entirely. And towards the end of my tenure in there, we were getting more and more consultants coming in. So it would be somebody who's leaving university at 21 with a degree in Microsoft Excel, and groups are putting them in as program controllers or whatever, and they are trying to tell people like me and Bob how to do our job, and it's like, oh, really? And so I get where Bob's coming from. Bob's a great broadcaster and much missed. I know things have to move on, but no, I never got to the stage where I fell out of that. I think maybe took itself too seriously. And when I started at Forth, we had a great program controller called Tom Steele. Tom was a journalist. Tom didn't have a qualification in radio per se, but Tom had a pair of ears, and he could tell what he liked and what he thought the audience would like. That's all it should take. It shouldn't take focus groups and spreadsheets. And you just need proper radio people in there.
And 45 Radio, is that keeping your love of it all alive, the love affair with radio?
It's good crack. You know, I don't know what the combined age is of all the presenters on it, but it's into the hundreds quite clearly. And we're people that have been around, and you know, the guys, for instance, David Hamilton, that's on just now before Marshall. David Hamilton, God's sake. And, you know, guys like Rick Dees, who was one of my heroes when I was growing up. My cousin who lives in California used to send me written tapes of Rick Dees in the 80s and the 90s. Rick Dees is on Saturday afternoon. I'm on the same radio station as Rick Dees. Boom. So that's it. It allows me to keep my hand in, and I get away with slavering nonsense and playing great songs.
Yeah, we've still got a couple of kind of questions and things to get through as well, Scott. Not so much a question, but Karen Kelly says the best line I ever heard from Scott was he was interviewing Ryan Fisher after a match, and he said, "Fish, you must be gutted."
Probably. Well, it would be. Yeah, it wouldn't have been prepared. It would have been a throwaway line, to be quite honest. No, it's more luck than judgment, I can assure you. I'm not that naturally funny.
But Johnny Besco is asking, Scott, have you watched Brockmire starring Hank Azaria? Who knew commentating could be so much fun?
No, I have no idea. What is that all about? Say that again.
Brockmire.
Brockmire. Never heard of
Hank
that.
Azaria. He's the Simpsons guy, is he not? Is he not?
I have no idea. I've not. I'll look into that. I'll look into that and see. I'm surprised Johnny Besco has time for telly, because he's normally time at live gigs. But I suppose with lockdown, he'll have to have discovered TV.
And Leanne McVicker asks, how did you get into the ice hockey at Murrayfield?
That was through the Speedway. Ian Misen, actually, because Ian was big into his ice hockey, and they were looking for a new announcer, and he asked if I would go along and do it. And I went along and saw it, and my kids came with me. I can't remember what the match was, but it was quite feisty, and there was boxing all the time, so my kids loved it. So they said, go and do it. So I went along and did it for a couple of seasons. And so that came, there seemed to be a correlation from the 60s of Speedway and ice hockey, which I don't fully understand. But yeah, it was good, but boy, it was cold. And whenever I would complain about the temperature, they'd go, it's an ice rink. It was, however, still marginally warmer than Armadale.
Scott, there was a time when you were on the side of all the buses on the back of your eye surgery. Now, it's quite an uplifting story behind that, isn't there?
It was. It was a couple of years ago. I was on holiday and I was lying on a sunbed in by, and I got an email in from the Edinburgh Clinic saying we are looking for a celebrity to front a campaign. And I emailed back and said, and are you asking if I know anybody? He said, oh, really sorry, didn't mean to insult you. No, we were actually inviting you. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, let me talk about it. So again, I thought it was just going to be a voiceover, etc. But no, they wanted to do TV, wanted to do radio. But the idea that they wanted somebody that wears glasses to go through the surgery. So I thought, oh, right, okay, this is a bit different. So I went and met the surgeon. He told me all the things that could potentially go wrong. At which point, ordinarily, I would have gone, no, you're all right, big man. But I thought, no, this is quite good because I'm keen to get rid of my glasses and my prescription had changed, so I needed to update them anyway. So I listened to what he said. I thought, aye, okay. So what I underwent wasn't laser surgery, it was lens replacement surgery. So effectively what they do, they split the cornea, they take out your existing lens and they put a synthetic lens in. This wee flaps back there, there's no stitches or anything, and within 4 hours that's healed. And within 48 hours, you've got effectively perfect vision. So I got that done last year. I think on the Thursday before Good Friday, I got my left eye. 2 weeks later, I got my right eye, and it's remarkable. It's been life-changing. So the net result there was part of that whole package was the fact that I had to be on the side of the buses, and was in the TV campaign, the radio campaign. And bizarrely, John, that is so successful that it's now running in Solihull. So I'm on the buses in Solihull because the Edinburgh Clinic has a clinic down there, presumably called the Solihull Clinic, and they've used me for there. So you can imagine all these people in the Black Country going, who the hell is he? But these glasses. So it must be working because they continually run the campaign. No, it's been great, absolutely remarkable.
You'd have thought you'd have been a poster boy, Scott.
Well, funnily enough, I've got one up here. I don't know if I can turn the camera there, and it's from my days on the back of the bus.
There you go.
And it was a listener that went to Lothian buses and got it once the campaign ended. And when I left Ford, she came up and presented me with that. So I've still got the puss on the bus, as I used to say.
Listen, couple of things. We won't keep you too much longer, Scott. Because honestly, I think we could sit and chat with you all afternoon. Chris Black's asking, I'm quite interested in this as well. What was behind the 100k in May thing that you were doing last month?
It was a Hearts thing. Hearts have got a charity arm called Big Hearts, and they ran this thing called the Cup Final Challenge. So Hearts have won 3 Scottish Cups in my lifetime, 98, 2006, 2012, and they were challenging people either to run 98k, run 6k, or run 12k, and make a donation and then inspire other people to do it. And we run a lot, albeit, I've not run for a week now. I managed to pop 3 vertebrae in my back during the week playing golf, so I'm struggling to walk, let alone run. And, we run a lot. My wife's now into, she's running a great deal too. So that was all it was, Chris. Effectively, we run anyway, and I thought, I'll give you £1 for every kilometre that I managed to run in the month. And so we paid in excess of a couple of £100 to the cause. So just a good cause, and it was something, we're doing it anyway, so why not hook it onto it?
Brilliant.
Julie Creighton wants to know when the next shirt shopping trip, try saying that quickly, when the next shirt shopping trip is.
Yes, well, this is a great story because we go to Cardiff every year for the Grand Prix. And as everybody knows, on the Cardiff weekend, you've got the Fours on the Friday night, which is my malt whisky night. And then on the Saturday, Lord Rocket has his champagne reception at 12 o'clock. But between breakfast and then, Chris, my son, and I, and King Rib and Julie Rib, we would go out shopping. And because the job that I had always had smart shirts, and we would also always go into TM Lewin every year, and I'd end up trying on umpteen shirts and buying about half a dozen. And it's a running joke with a lot of people, like the Duffs, when we rock up to Lord Rockets, they'll go, okay, I want to see your shirts this year. So yeah, we used to do a lot of shirt shopping when we were in Cardiff.
It was just before we finish up, Scott, is there anyone that you'd like to thank for your time at Edinburgh Speedway? Anyone you'd a special mention towards?
I just think the promoters for keeping faith with me over the years, particularly at the very start when it probably would have been easier just to cut their losses and run and get somebody that could do a proper job. But they stuck with me for certainly the first 6 weeks. No, there's lots of people over the years, and again, I miss Ron McNeil greatly. So he was a really, really close pal. Neil Potter as well, who was in the box when I first started, miss him a great deal as well. And I think it would be unfair to name anybody specifically, John. There's just been so many people that have become friends over the course of my time there. And I do miss the people very much. My challenge is I fly a great deal, or past tense, I used to. And so I could be flying back on a Friday and say I'm flying back from Dublin, the flight's at 10 to 5. That's great for getting in, but very often that flight's late. So then it puts pressure, and it means that you're either turning up late or you're not turning up at all. And that's why I had to do it. So I do miss that. Let's say, don't miss the cold, but I do miss the people. But yeah, far too many to mention. Great folks.
Scott, if you ever get along on a Friday night, you know you're more than welcome to come and join John and I up in the tower. You up for that one night?
Yeah, no, I'd like that. Actually, last season there was 3 that I'd committed to come to, and everyone got rained off. Jonah.
It was your fault, was it?
So no, I will. I promise I will. It'd be nice just to come back and be able to watch the Speedway.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, you know where the tower is, Scott, and we'd love to see you up there. Anytime, you're always welcome.
No, thank you very much. And
listen, Scott,
everybody that if I can just thank everybody that got involved in the auction yesterday. That was fun. I have name checked everybody at the start of this, but you know, Derek and Frida, Mike Hunter, the Cray twins, who have all been absolutely instrumental in putting all this together. But everybody that donated everything, everybody that bought stuff, it was great crack.
Brilliant. Listen, Scott, thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure seeing you again. It's been a pleasure speaking to you again. I know the fans, looking at all the comments on Facebook there, they've all missed you, and it's all been great. They've all enjoyed seeing you back here again. So thank you for taking the time to join us. No problem, guys. Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Yes.
Brilliant. We'll be back. There's no EMTV Rewind on Tuesday, so we'll be back on Friday with another EMTV Rewind, and we'll be back next Sunday with another special guest for our Sunday lunch. Scott, thank you again, and thanks to everyone for watching, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you.
Nice one. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you.